Hello guys, I'm Furion and this is Maciej.
Hi.
I am most known for being the chief referee of ETC 2012 and the player of 2010 at the ETC. I was playing High Elves and
Okay.
and this is Maciej.
I'm known in Poland as Kudłaty. On ETC forum I'm El Peludo. I played on 2011 with Dwarves. Last year I made pairings and I was a non-playing coach. And this year I'm a spokesperson from Team Poland. And we would like to share with you some of our thoughts about making restrictions, how to make it. Generally we will be rather talking how not to make restrictions.
Yeah, actually.
Because the negative feedback would be the most part of our... Because we are sarcastic. Yeah, it generally goes like that.
So we are considered one of the better players in Poland. It's
Maybe not the best, but while talking about good players in Poland, we are mentioned.
We are rarely mentioned.
Yeah.
So
we know how to play the games. We know all the phases. We know the sequence of phases, and
we know when do you actually do flee.
yeah, we know a lot of rules, and we know how to use them. We know how to play Warhammer.
And we actually do it, which is important.
Yeah.
We're not just some geeks sitting somewhere who don't play the game, just read the book and say that.
Yeah.
I played a whole number of 2 games to prove it.
We play Warhammer outside online forums, which is quite important.
Yeah. And I think that now we will proceed to sharing our thoughts about ETC restrictions.
Yes. Generally, we would like to say that we like what is going about the ETC restrictions, but we really think that
It can be
can be better. Yeah.
Okay.
Much better.
So let's hop into it. Let's start with the general concept of making restrictions. Like, who should make the restrictions? Currently, the system is that we have a democratic process which chooses 5 members.
Yeah.
And it is sort of a popularity contest.
Yes, the thing is that there is a popular belief that in those 5 people, there have to be the members of the biggest countries and some representative of the smallest one. The problem is that the smallest countries has got too few players to make reasonable feedback on their own field, which makes those people less effective during the restriction process. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Okay, so about who should be in this AR committee. It is no secret, I think everybody knows it, that in order to make good restrictions, good players have to make them. Players who not only think about this game a lot, who are, let's say, theoretical artisans, but also the practitioners of the game who play the game on a regular basis and are able to face the product of...
that is what is also more important, the player who face another good players, not only which that are good on themselves, but also can check on various armies whether it works or not. Because if there is a good player that has got only 2 friends to play against, he will put restrictions against on each other, and it doesn't work.
This brings us to the another problem, the problem of the community sizes and the number of players who are capable of making good restrictions. Like, the Poland has this benefit that we have a very large base of regular tournament players.
Yes,
there are over
Germany also has good,
course.
Big environment.
I think
Italy,
that Italy has a great gaming base.
I don't know about Denmark. But Denmark has got a good representation, but I don't know how many players have they actually got. But they are close to Germany.
I think it's about 600.
Yeah, it's also quite big.
Okay, but anyways, my point is that generally a good Warhammer player, a player who has like this special insight about what is good in the game, he's able to make the right calls during the game, is he occurs on average once per 100 players.
Something like that.
Something like that. we based it on
It's
observations of our scene and the foreign scene.
Yes, it's like in a normal sport. If you would like to have one master, you have to have some other amount of players that you can sort to get this master. And if you would like to have, for every bigger level, you have to sort the current
1 of 10,
amount.
1 of 10,
1 of 10, and it goes like that. The problem is in smaller countries, if there would be, for example, 200 players, it can happen that none of them plays on a reasonable level such some army. And it can happen that the really overpowered army hasn't got a really reasonable general, so they aren't aware of their strengths.
Yes, exactly. Or it can go totally the other way around. That we have a weak army, but the player is superior, and the army is treated as being better than it actually is.
Yes, it's
like,
over-restricted.
Like if the same player would play in a community which has much more players, and he would able to test his ideas, his roster, his skills against other players of his level, I think he would have a different perception of how strong his army actually is.
And there is a third problem. Sometimes it happens in smaller communities that there is a majority of some gaming style. A lot of people, for example, play Cavalry List, and in this community, the meta game is a little bit too twisted. And for example, the lore of metal is overpopular, and because of that, some lists that are good in general meta game are very weak there because everyone has got a counter strategy against it.
Yeah, this is actually a good point.
But it happens only in a really small communities, because if you got hundreds of players, it probably won't happen. But sometimes it happens that during the democratic process, we are having an idea, let's choose some new guy. Maybe it will be good. He will get some other view. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, generally I don't really believe personally in the idea of the other view. I think that we can generally divide players who know what they are talking about, who know how restrictions should look like. They seek advice from other good players, which is, of course, good. It is possible that this good player is from a country with a small player base, but it's rather unlikely. And it's more possible that a player from a small gaming community will have a very fixed view on a balance, which because of the points we mentioned about. Of course, this is just some statistic talking. We both know that if I ate 2 dinners, Maciej ate none. We statistically are both not hungry. So Greece is a perfect counterexample. They have a player base of like 20 people.
20, 50, it's really less than 100.
Yeah, and they produce really great results, proven throughout ETC.
Yes, but every good player in Greece plays one each other, and they practice in a reasonable environment. But if they would do it like in other countries where they would face only locally, it wouldn't work.
Okay, so now we have given you a background of how to choose specific people to get the job done. Of course, by no means it should be 5 polls. Don't get us wrong. It's not our point. It's simply that players which come from smaller communities should be definitely more open to suggestions. Yes. Because they don't have the opportunity to confront their skills and their ideas in practice, in the actual game.
Yes, in our point, we don't want to have all the members from one country, because they will dominate the process and they will make their own views. If we would put, for example, 5 polls, it wouldn't make sense, because we will put a view of 1,500 players from our local community to make all the restrictions. The better way is to put the guys from the biggest communities to confront their views. So, for example, one from Poland, one from Germany, one from Italy, one from Denmark, and one from Democratic Choose.
Or Greece.
Or Greece, yes. Choose Greece.
Someone with the Papa Dipali and the...
with those long names. The thing is that if we know how to choose the committee, there is a thing that wasn't done this year, last year. The thing is that we have to agree how to make the restrictions. There are few main paths, ways that the restrictions can be made. We have to agree what we would like to restrict, whether we would like to restrict only the strongest combinations, we would like to restrict the paper, scissors, rock effect, or we would like to restrict boring armies, we would like to restrict monothematic armies. There are things that we have to agree before we start to make restrictions, because if we start making restrictions first and then wait, we will restrict this in Empire, in Tom King's that, and on Wood Elves, we will restrict something else. It looks like a total random product. If we would make this 1 week before to make even the captain's vote to agree what are we want to achieve by making suggestions, the whole restriction process would be much easier.
Yes, I totally agree. To name the ways in which you can make the restrictions. Currently we have a very mixed approach to how these ETC restrictions are made.
Maybe we will give you one simple example. What are we talking about? The first restrictions from Empire in draft number 2 is maximum number of 45 handgunners, crossbowmen in total. It means that you cannot make a corner army but only shoots. On the other hand, we have got a Tom King's that we removed the bowman limit, so we can make a corner army only to shoot.
Doesn't really make sense, does it?
Yes. If one army says we don't want paper, rock, scissors thing, we restrict it. The other thing we say, Tom Kings are weak. Allow them. Why not?
Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
The other example would be the Lizardman army. The list of restrictions for Lizardman army, let's take aside if they are reasonable or not for this method. The whole this list, it's so long that it can fill a telephone book.
Yeah.
It generally says that you can't field every unit.
Yes.
More or less, something like that. While the same effect, possibly even a better effect, can be achieved by limiting the overall size of the army. Let's say 2,200 points or 2,300 points. Doesn't really matter.
If we already agreed that we are allowed to change the army sizes, for example, Wood Elves, Beastmen, Storm Kings, we can also adjust it on the other way. If we can make additional points, we can decrease actual points. It's not a problem.
And it has been done before.
Yes.
In the 2011,
we remember demons, the vampires, and the dark elves were playing.
Or even 2,000 points versus.
The demons were the strongest. There were 1 year that only the demons were playing with the smaller points, and they were competitive. And 1 year was with the dark elves, the vampires, and the demons, the big three.
Yeah, but the point difference between those armies was 400 points.
No,
yes, it was 2,000, 2,200, and 2,400.
Yeah, it was between the smallest and the biggest.
Yes.
It was probably even bigger.
Yeah.
Never mind. However, we already did it, and it worked.
Yeah.
If it worked before, I think there is a chance that it would work in the future. There was an experiment, it worked. Quite a good thing. But it's generally the way. Because the other thing is, we would like to agree what we would really like to achieve by such a thing. Because sometimes there are restrictions that we restrict a thing that is really strong. However, exceeding the restrictions doesn't make a sense. The thing is, for example, the Chaos Dwarfs. We've got the limit on cans, on wolves. Cans are generally good to take, but if you already took 3, I don't know.
The fourth one doesn't bring much
the fourth
more value.
The fifth one. Yeah. Every other guy makes less value, so probably someone will take 4 if he would have 60 points left in a roster. However, generally it doesn't make much difference.
Also, the same issue is with Lizardmen and Scar Veterans on Cold One. Like, the two guys are good, are fine, they have nice magic items, but the third guy, he doesn't bring you any value.
The third guy is... The first two guys are immune to the first cannon shot because they got even a charm shield or a 2+ ward save. The third guy is a guy with a 4+ ward save and he's a risky one. He's probably the worst of them. And
taking into account that the Lizardmen are underpriced, this third guy, which is significantly worse than the first two, is probably worth the point. So, not much point in restricting him, I think.
Yes, and the thing is, we've got only 25% in hero slot. So if we would like to take this guy, we cannot have, for example, another magic level on a small skink, so we are taking a guy only to carry a skull. So it's another point cost that makes this list worse during the process of making it. Not to mention that if we would max the characters in the Lizard army, we wouldn't have units. And we need small units to avoid combat in this army. It makes the list further worse, in my opinion, for example.
And about these approaches to game balance, it is important to note that in some cases it is not possible to make an army balanced without cutting or increasing the number of points. I think that the Lizardmen are such an example, and Warriors of Chaos are such an example.
The Chaos Dwarfs, for example.
Chaos Dwarfs, yeah. Like, whatever you take...
The Chaos Dwarfs with Kadai Destroyer.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Are there any other, actually?
I think that there are, because in those restrictions they probably believe that are armies without Kadai Destroyer, because we can see there are restrictions. They restrict Hell Cannon, Deathcake Mortar, the Prophet, and something else. And this pool hasn't got a Kadai Destroyer, and those guys probably believe that such army exists, because if you take Hell Cannon and Deathcake Mortar, you don't fit your Kadai Destroyer in rare choice. So it's like, wow. And if you take Kadai Destroyer, the whole set of restrictions doesn't make sense, because you can take 3 and more doesn't fit, because you already have a Kadai Destroyer and there is no point in a rare choice.
This is another problem of restrictions being overcomplicated. Like, now we are still giving you background. We have talked about how to choose specific people to get the job done. We also marked that those people have to be lenient about their skills, especially if they come from a small community.
Not only, generally there is a problem that people who are chosen in such groups have such a belief we are almost gods. We know everything, they have chosen us, and now I will make these restrictions. I know what I am doing, and I am doing it right.
Yes, this is some kind of a megalomania problem, perhaps.
And the other thing is, when such restrictions are shown on the forum, there is no debate like we are showing numbers, talking about actual list, but we are talking like, no, vampire accounts should have more of doom. You have restricted me this. It's not so overpowered as this. It's nonsense. It's not a feedback that can actually make some effect.
It's not a valuable feedback.
Yes, it's like, if there is a feedback that says only my army is wrongly placed because I play it and I think I would be losing more often, it's like, oh, you would like to get something for you. If it's not a general feedback about whole the balance, it's some kind of nonsense, because you cannot compare one army not reading the others. Because if you see, oh, my army got stronger restrictions, let's check what armies that I was having problems before looks now. Because if my army is a bit weaker and they are the same, the balance is just fine. But if one army gets significantly stronger and the others get weaker, something is wrong.
Okay. And also there is another problem with restrictions. it's that they are long and actually unreadable. Like, ETC has evolved into something very specific. It is the most prestigious tournament in the world. Yes. The restriction used at the ETC are the most common used restrictions in the game at a competitive level.
Yes, I remember times when we were sending the new restrictions by text messages. Now 160 signs to send restrictions, for example, for Lizardmans. Yeah, when I remember.
It would be hard, wasn't
it? In high school, I was making my writings shorter when the restrictions for Lizardman.
And this brings us to another problem. The ETC community has grown into such a monstrosity that it has a responsibility towards newer players who wish to be competitive, who wish to try the tournament, who wish to go to there and see how it's like. Perhaps they'll like it, perhaps they'll enhance our gaming scene. And those players are really scared away when they see such complicated restrictions.
There are two main points. The first thing is that it's sometimes, for example, I'm a new player to Warhammer. I bought my army book, I bought a rule book, I bought some minis, and now I would like to play a game with my friend, and my friend say, hey, let's play ETC. I'm taking the Lizardman restrictions, and it's like, whoa. And I'm unable to make a list. Not only a good list, but a legal list.
Yeah.
Because everything I would like to field is sooner or later restricted, put into some pool, something else or something else.
Yeah, 3 of 5, 2 of 3, 1 of 6.
Mylon of 2 Mylons. And it's like, but it's not generally such a big problem. The thing is that the ETC is getting farther and farther from the regular Warhammer. The strength of ETC was that it was the better, but it was still a Warhammer. You can take your regular minis from your normal Warhammer games and play ETC. Some small things changed, but it was generally the same miniatures, the same compositions, the same characters. You weren't ought to buy new things. But if you all over-restrict the general environment, new players that bought miniatures for the regular game need to buy new ones for the ETC. It's a problem for the new players. If we are dinosaurs like us, we've got a shelf of miniatures,
yes.
We take another miniatures and we play whatever we need. But the new player, if he has to buy 2,000 points for the regular open games, 2,400 for the ETC, he has to buy more than 3,000 points sometimes of miniatures, which for a new player, it's not the best way to start a hobby.
Yeah, and also the issue about that we are talking right now, about the new players coming to play the game, it's not some kind of our speculations that such things might happen. It's actually proven by the numbers. We are the active members of the Polish Warhammer scene, so we know how the situation looks like across the country, and we can see it in our cities, in other cities, the general decrease in number of new players. And it's been so constant since the ETC restrictions came out in such a complicated manner that I think that it's a rule. It's not some statistical flux.
Yes. For example, the very big problem was with the demons, where the restrictions for bloodletters and heralds were floating one way and another, and people didn't know whether to buy 30 bloodletters, not to buy them. It was like we're making two big moves during the restriction process, allowing and disallowing certain units. The restrictions to the book should appear later, after good test, and after they are shown, they should have be changed much less. For example, now we are like 1 week or 2 weeks after the draft to end showing the books to demons, and I can read here the whole new restrictions to demons. I thought I'm a very good guy at it. I read the book, I know something, but I haven't managed to playtest it. But yeah, I've got my work. I don't spend whole my time on Warhammer. Maybe those 5 democratically chosen guy does it. I really appreciate their work. I would make it like 1 month later. They are better than me.
Okay, no need to be picky, but generally, the point is that sometimes it's good to actually playtest something than to make it open to the public to playtest. And of course, wait with restrictions for how the metagame shifts, and then make the actual restrictions.